Pulse Talk, bringing insights into health and wellness with your hosts, Christine and Alex.
Can you imagine walking into a pharmacy, right?
No.
And you're not there for cough syrup or Band-Aids or whatever.
Yeah.
You're there for bread.
Bread.
Yeah. It sounds strange, but that's exactly what's going on right now in Malaysia. They've got this new diabetic-friendly sourdough bread. But here's the kicker. It's sold in Alpro Pharmacy.
Okay, now that is interesting. I mean, pharmacies and sourdough, those two don't usually go together. So what's the story? Was this some big bread company trying to branch out?
Not even close. It all started with the team at Alpro themselves, actually.
Yeah.
Apparently, they noticed a lot of their diabetic customers were, looking for healthier bread options, but they weren't satisfied with what was already out there.
So they saw a need and decided to fill it themselves.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like they had that aha moment. They were even inspired by this low-carb bread they found in China, but they couldn't import it for some reason, so they thought, hey, why not just make our own?
Makes sense. I'm guessing that's where this 𝐬𝐲 365 team comes in, right? The diabetic support group from Alpro. You got it. But here's the thing. None of them were master bakers or anything.
Oh, so this wasn't some simple, straightforward process.
No way. It was a real journey. There were setbacks, surprises, even taste testing marathons, the whole shebang. But before we get into all that, can we talk about sourdough for a second? Why sourdough?
Good point. It's not exactly the first thing that comes to mind when you think diabetic friendly.
Right. So why do you think they went with sourdough?
Well, sourdough has a reputation for being easier to digest, which a lot of people struggle with, not just people with diabetes. You eat a sandwich on regular bread, next thing you know, you're bloated and uncomfortable.
Oh, tell me about it.
Exactly. And this is especially relevant in Malaysia, where, bread's a pretty big part of the diet. So sourdough can be a good option.
Makes sense. But it wasn't just about making bread that was easy on the stomach, right?
Yeah.
The 𝐬𝐲 365 team really wanted to make sure this bread wouldn't spike people's blood sugar, which is the main thing you're trying to avoid when you have diabetes.
Right, because at its core, diabetes is really about managing those blood sugar levels.
So are they totally reinventing the wheel here?
Well, they're definitely challenging the norm. Traditionally, low-fat, high-carbohydrate diets were the go-to for managing diabetes, but now we're seeing more and more research suggesting that low-carb diets can be a really effective alternative.
So maybe swapping out that side of white rice for some extra veggies.
Exactly.
Interesting. So back to the bread. They're not bakers. They're trying to create this super sourdough. What happened? Did they just Google a recipe?
Well, if only it were that easy, right?
Yeah.
There's actually this story about the project leader, 𝐿𝐲𝐿. Apparently her boss told her she had to actually bake the bread herself to really understand the process.
Oh, wow. Talk about a crash course in sourdough.
Right, from pharmacy to bakery in a flash. And it wasn't just her. They brought in bakers, nutritionists, dietitians, the whole team effort just to tweak and test and perfect this recipe.
I bet that was chaotic.
You have no idea. They even found this secret ingredient that makes all the difference, but they're keeping it under wraps.
Oh, man. Now you got me curious. But wait, they were testing the glycemic index of this bread too, right? How do you even do that? Make people eat bread and then
prick their fingers to test their blood sugar?
Yeah.
Pretty much. They had volunteers eating almost 9 slices of bread in 15 minutes just to track those blood sugar levels.
9 slices. That sounds more like a punishment than a taste test.
Well, they were dedicated, but that's not even the end of it. They then had to figure out packaging, how to display the bread in the pharmacy.
Wait, where did they even put it? Next to the cough syrup? By the vitamins?
That was the big question. It's not every day you see sourdough in a pharmacy. They did surveys, and people were so confused, wait, Alpro sells bread now.
That's hilarious. It really makes you think twice about those assumptions we make,
Okay.
Where should certain things be sold? But okay, let's circle back to the whole diabetes and diet thing for a second, because this bread really taps into this whole bigger discussion around low-carb diets.
Exactly. And there's a lot of debate swirling around that. For a long time, the advice for managing diabetes was all about low-fat, high-carb diets. The classic food pyramid with all those grains at the bottom.
Yeah, I remember that. Carbs were king.
Right. But now there's all this research emerging that's really challenging that traditional thinking. We have this paper here, The Case for Low Carbohydrate Diets and Diabetes Management, and it's making some really compelling points.
So are they saying ditch the rice and noodles completely?
It's not quite that black and white. The research suggests that low-carb diets, where the primary focus is on reducing carbs, not just fat, can be a really effective option, especially for weight loss and improving blood sugar control.
So it's more about understanding the types of carbs you're eating, right? Like choosing those complex carbs over the refined ones.
Exactly. But there's another layer to this whole low-carb thing. It's not just about cutting out all fats. In fact, the research emphasizes that incorporating good fats, like those found in olive oil, avocados, nuts, those unsaturated fats, is super important.
So this isn't the green light to load up on bacon and butter. Because I'll be honest, that's what I think of when I hear low carb.
Right. Not quite a free pass on all the unhealthy fats, unfortunately. It's about making smart choices and understanding that balance is key. It really challenges those old school ideas about all fat being the enemy.
So it's like a complete reframing of how we think about diet and diabetes, which is pretty cool.
Totally. And Alpro's bread actually fits right into this evolving conversation. It's like they're ahead of the curve, offering a practical solution that aligns with this new wave of research.
Totally. And it highlights that it's not just about medication, right? Food plays a huge role in managing diabetes.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that often gets lost in the conversation. It's not just about taking your meds. It's about making conscious choices about what you put into your body every day.
Food is medicine.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that this research we've been looking at primarily talks about type 2 diabetes. But there's another type 1, and it's a whole other ballgame.
Right, because both types involve managing blood sugar, but the underlying causes are different, right?
Exactly. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune condition where the body doesn't produce insulin, which is the hormone that regulates blood sugar. So people with type 1 need to take insulin every day, no matter what.
So it's less about tweaking their diet and more about carefully balancing their insulin intake with their meals.
You got it. Dietary management is still important for type 1, but the focus shifts to matching carbohydrate intake with insulin doses.
To avoid those dangerous blood sugar spikes and crashes, right?
Exactly. And that often requires constant monitoring and adjustment, which can be tough.
Wow, yeah. That sounds intense. It really puts into perspective how complex an individual managing diabetes can be. There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Absolutely. It really underscores the importance of working closely with healthcare providers to create a plan that's right for you, for your specific type of diabetes, and for your lifestyle.
100%. It's been so eye-opening to dive into all this research and to see how Alpro is kind of shaking things up with this whole diabetic-friendly bread situation.
It really feels like a pivotal moment in the conversation around food and diabetes in Malaysia. And what's so cool about it is that it all started with this one company just wanting to help its customers.
It's incredible. This whole deep dive began with a team at Alpro just wanting their customers to be able to enjoy bread again. And it spiraled into this exploration of cutting-edge research and the future of food. It really makes you realize how powerful food can be, right? I mean, we've been talking about this whole story of innovation and community, but it really highlights this bigger shift towards thinking differently about food and what we're putting into our bodies.
100%. It's like we're moving beyond just eating what tastes good, and we're actually thinking about how our food choices impact our health.
Especially for people managing conditions like diabetes.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that food can be both, enjoyable and functional.
Yeah.
It can be a source of pleasure and a tool for feeling your best.
It's a delicate balance for sure.
It is, but sometimes those two things go hand in hand, like with this diabetic-friendly bread at Alpro. It's delicious, but it's also designed with health in mind.
It really is a pretty amazing story when you think about it. This entire deep dive started with this team at Alpro Pharmacy who just wanted to help their diabetic customers enjoy bread again.
It just goes to show that innovation can come from the most unexpected places.
It's true. Who knew a loaf of sourdough could lead us down this rabbit hole of scientific research and the future of food?
Right. But that's the best part. It shows that anyone can make a difference. Alpro saw a need, they listened to their community, and they took action.
And now they're pioneers in this whole new wave of thinking about food as medicine.
Exactly.
That's pretty inspiring, actually. It's got me thinking what other everyday things could be reimagined? What if this is just the beginning?
It's an exciting thought for sure.
It is. Okay, so everyone listening, next time you're at Alpro Pharmacy, maybe picking up a prescription, grabbing some vitamins, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Take a second to check out their bread aisle.
You never know what you might find.
Seriously. And hey, Maybe this whole deep dive has, like, sparked your curiosity.
Yeah.
Maybe you're thinking about trying a low-carb diet or, just learning more about managing diabetes through food.
If that's you, do your research. Talk to your doctor or a registered dietitian because they can help you figure out what makes sense for you.
Always good advice. Well, this has been quite the culinary adventure. Until next time, happy eating, everyone.